Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, joined by this week, as always, Debhausen, the great and powerful, John in South Jersey, and Tony Justice, the greatest trucker of all time. What's up, people?
This guy again.
What's happening?
Oh, this guy.
What's that?
This guy again, really? What's going on, Nation? What's good? This fucking guy.
We starting already? Am I going to have to put somebody in timeout?
I guess we're starting.
He chose violence this morning, I guess.
When don't I? When don't I? Anyway.
You have your angry weeks?
I love you. I love you too, John.
I love you too, brother. You know that. I would absolutely piss on you if you were on fire. So.
That's awesome to
If
hear.
you weren't, you probably would anyway.
That's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
What if
we
you get
have.
stung by a jellyfish?
Oh, no, he's going to die.
Are they deadly?
Those things have no backbone or anything or any vertebrae or bones whatsoever. No messing with them.
All right.
I'll dial 911.
Quick shout out to everybody in the chat. I see Seth's in there. I see Todd. I see Neil. Everybody's joining. Appreciate y'all joining us on a Saturday. So much stuff is happening. We're a week away from the Royal Rumble. There's new stuff happening all over the world of pro wrestling. And just to start off, we talked last week about TNA's Hard to Kill pay-per-view. We previewed that, and it was an incredible show. And y'all talked me into subscribing to YouTube and watching TNA this week.
Attaboy!
You're right.
Finally!
Really
Finally!
it was
Front Row has tuned in to TNA.
It was good, man. It was the pacing was very good. The stories, the action. They didn't have too many matches. It was good, and doing the subscription makes it a 90-minute show. So it's like, I wouldn't say bite sized, but it's also not a whole investment of like your whole night. So,
right.
Yeah. So if you guys have been saying this forever, I know I just haven't had the time to put another wrestling show on my card, but I might push some other stuff out of the way to make room for this one because it's especially this
AEW. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm a little cigar smoke. I apologize.
That's fair, but no, it was. We're gonna kick off with that today because the pay-per-view is awesome. The follow-up was awesome. The promos that we saw from people like Nick Nemeth and Steve Macklin on the show this week were very natural, very like, okay, I see where we're headed, but it's really interesting. And I always say the women's division is one of the best in the world. And now with the addition of Deonna Purrazzo, it's just, Deonna's over on AEW, but
right.
With Trinity leaving TNA, that leaves a big opportunity for somebody to step up. And as we found out this week, well, we'll talk about that later on. So what do you guys think about the pay-per-view? I was going to dive into something, but I'm going to wait.
Okay. I thought Hard to Kill was an incredible show.
Yeah.
I thought it definitely, I mean, like you put in the title, they made a statement. They made a statement with that show, bringing the name TNA back. So we're back to like the old school TNA Impact. I loved it. I loved like everything about it. Every match was just so captivating, I guess would be the word. Yeah, and then just the ending of the show, Scott D'Amore's promo, it was just all incredible.
That was one fired up Canadian at the end of that.
Yeah. Not in like a not an alcohol or drug fueled post.
My man was shooting pure fire and pure passion.
But he was only focused on his company. He wasn't throwing shit at anybody else. He was just, we're here, we're awesome. Y'all better pay attention because we're going to do big things. And it was it was perfect. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The three key points I took away from Hard to Kill. Yes, if you don't watch anything else, watch the last 3 to 5 minutes of the pay-per-view, and I'm sure it's on YouTube as a clip, and listen to Scott D'Amore's speech and promo at the end. My two absolute favorite matches of the night, the Women's Ultimate X, which I think is fantastic, and congrats to Giselle Shaw, the quintessential diva. She has now earned herself a Knockouts title shot as the Ultimate X winner. But
yeah,
so I know they did the first one last year. This is the second time they did it, and it's such a unique showcase for an already stacked roster of female talent on TNA.
yeah.
And they're like, oh well, the women. Oh, let me type angrily on my. The women can't wrestle nowhere near as good as the men ever. They're girls. Go fuck yourself. Go watch the Ultimate X match between the women on TNA Hard to Kill and tell me that those women can't go just as well, if not better, than the men do. So
Yeah.
keep your angry typing to yourself. The other one, obviously, the one that kind of everybody was talking about, and we actually didn't even see it until this past Thursday on the fallout from Impact on Active Television and on YouTube, was Will Ospreay, Josh Alexander 2. And absolutely, that match lived exactly up to what it was supposed to be. The second match by arguably two of the best in wrestling doing it today. And their first match was an absolute instant classic, and so is this one. And the hook, the aha, first time Will Ospreay beat Josh Alexander. Second time, it's the walking weapon Josh Alexander who pins Will Ospreay. So now it's 1-1. So that means there's going to be a 3. And yes, absolutely, yes. Please make that happen this year.
Yes.
Cool.
Definitely has to.
Yeah.
Well, to me, Hard to Kill was amazing. Thing I took away from it was, I called it, by the way, last week. I called it. Nick Nemeth was going to show up at Hard to Kill, and I called it.
Oh, God, this
he could have left
Adamus over here.
He could have left his disdain for tearing up vintage Motley Crue shirts, though. I don't know why he ripped that Motley Crue shirt, and that was a vintage shirt. Like they talked about.
I could hear Bully's heart breaking.
Yeah. I think Dave said, or Bully one said that shirt goes for like $200 on eBay.
Oof. Oof.
And so, yeah, he just ripped it like it was a shirt, like a T-shirt at Walmart. But anyway, I mean, when you're Nick Nemeth, you can do stuff like that. You know, if you're Tony Justice, you take care of all your shirts. You can't.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I need.
And
that.
if you're Debhausen, you fill up your walk-in closet with your T-shirts.
Well, we're moving on up.
I have an armor. Looks much the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hard to Kill was an amazing show, and I did not get to see TNA from Thursday night because I was driving or something. Wasn't able to catch it, but I am going to catch it eventually. I am on board for TNA. I love TNA. I'm so glad they're back. And speaking of TNA, one quick note. I met a TNA superstar from back in the day today in my hometown of Palestine, Texas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hernandez, Supermex. He's a friend of the show. We interviewed him probably a couple of years ago, I think, at this point. And he came on and he gave a very good interview, and he remembered the show. He remembered that interview, and it was just so cool to go out. You know, I was at a gas station, a truck stop, and I was walking out the door, and there he is getting out of his car with his wife. And I'm standing in the door, holding the door open for him. And I said, "What's up, Hernandez?" And he's so cordial, so cool. And we got to talking and about our dads, because I know his dad from being a commander at the VFW, and my dad used to be the commander at the VFW. And then he told me some unfortunate news that his dad passed away last month. So condolences to Hernandez. Sorry about the loss of your father, and all the love and support from the Nation's Corner, man. But yeah, it was so cool to meet him and get to shoot the crap with him for 5 minutes or so. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, I'm on board for TNA, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting because we saw Nick Nemeth in TNA, but we also had just previously seen him show up with his brother in New Japan. So he is signed to TNA according to the company, but that doesn't mean that he can't pop up elsewhere. We know that they have that type of relationship with other companies. So it will be very interesting to see where he shows up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Deb.
I was just gonna say, I'm really excited for Nick Nemeth in TNA. And one other thing, that kind of brings up one point I wanted to make. Right now, we're in this interesting period of time with free agency. And I think it's absolutely incredible that we have a bunch of different companies that are kind of at the forefront of the wrestling business right now. Obviously, WWE's on top. Obviously, there's no question about that. But we got AEW, TNA, New Japan. We got these companies that are kind of at the forefront, and there's so many people kind of switching it up and switching it around. So I think it's a very interesting time, and I kind of feel like people are taking it for granted, like how the industry is thriving right now.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. It's an interesting thing to see, like WWE superstars going over to Noah, going over to other Japanese companies. It's not a thing that we saw up until recent years. Typically, they wouldn't exchange talent at all. I mean, even the stuff with Evolve was very minimal, and then they just bought Evolve. So like, it's interesting. Like right now, the speculation for a guy like Okada, who is out on his way out the door at New Japan. Is he going to show up in AEW? Is he going to show up in at the Royal Rumble? Like, there are so many opportunities for someone like him to show up and do big things. And then the crossovers, like we've seen Mickie James show up in the Rumble as a non-signed talent, like
with another company's belt.
Right? Yeah, which was insane.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to mention, which really sucks, not to be a downer, but man, there was a lot of injuries the last couple weeks. We saw Seth Rollins defeated Jinder Mahal on Raw, and he apparently is injured, and they made the announcement today that he has a torn MCL, I believe. But they don't know yet whether it's going to require major surgery. Like, is he going to be back in 2 to 3 weeks? Is he going to be back in 6 months to a year? Like, there's no timetable on him. We do know Charlotte Flair recently had surgery on her knee. She's out for 6 to 12 months. We now know that Kylan King is out for about a year with a similar injury. And Cora Jade was injured last week. Like, in the last 2 weeks has been rough. So just go ahead, John. I know you had some thoughts on this.
It sucks, and it just seems, especially lately, there's just been so much with injuries and at the most inopportune times. Here's Seth Rollins on the verge of WrestleMania and the road to WrestleMania and everything, and now, not that we had any idea of what exactly was going to go down between now and WrestleMania anyway, regardless of how many speculations and fantasy bookings we want to do. Now you have just like a real great problem that they had was the introduction of The Rock. Now they have a real bad problem that one of your top people, one of your champions, and one of the very key to all the other stories evolving in WWE right now is not going to be available. And that it's, and as you and I both know, front row, card subject to change is an MFer. Even on the lowest, how just one talent or one thing goes wrong messes up everything. I can't imagine the ripple effect and I don't want to call it damage control, not, pardon the pun, that they have to do. But man, I mean, you're legitimately taking stuff that has been written and written out, and now have to completely rewrite it out. And
Right.
and it sucks because you knew, especially with someone the caliber of Seth, it was going to be something really good leading up and into WrestleMania. But now what is, I guess, the biggest question. And there's never a great time to be injured, but sometimes it's like, ooh, this didn't happen. And the other one, of course, to me, on a more personal level, is Kylan King. She was the TNA One to Watch award winner for 2023, and I'm definitely not going to sneak you back behind the curtain, but in my conversations with her, finding out about this myself 2-3 weeks ago, they had some big plans with her, and where they were going to go with her at TNA. I mean, they're still there. They'll be there when she does come back, but it was very hard to listen to my friend have to explain this to me and all that, and I feel bad for her, and I wish her absolutely the most speedy and complete recovery she has. And I have no doubt that once again, the motherfucking King will be back atop and the king of the knockouts sooner rather than later.
Hell yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
doubt.
I think she'll be fine. I think, people are going to be super excited for when she does return. And, there was a lot of excitement around her coming to TNA in the first place. So I think everything will be all right. It sucks for a little while, but she'll be good.
Yeah. Momentum is a hell of a thing because you either have it or you don't. And when you have the momentum, everything seems to be rolling smooth, going your way, but when you fall off that horse, when you fall off that wagon, and it's hell to get that momentum back. And when you're injured, then you have to sit there and watch the product while you're injured, like Charlotte, sitting there home on her couch, having to watch, how we talked about Drew McIntyre, being at home, watching WrestleMania, watching your match and just seeing nobody in the crowd. It's kind of similar to that in a way, except it's probably worse because there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that Charlotte can do about it other than to get up and rehab every day, or however much she rehabs, and damn well she's rehabbing every day. Charlotte is one of those that she's going to do everything possible in order to beat the clock, to get back as soon as she can. She's not going to just take, if they say a year, she's just not going to take a year off. That's just not Charlotte's. That's not in her DNA. So,
for sure.
It has to suck, sitting there and just watching the product while you're sitting there and you can't do a thing about it.
Well, we saw that even with Giovanni Vinci last week. He got his bell rung and they stopped the match. And so he's out, I think, on concussion protocol, which I think is a mandatory minimum 30 days. Which I fully support. Like, I'm glad that they take those precautions. But now here's a guy that was in a storyline, and he has to kind of sit home and wait. Especially for folks that are under a protocol watch who feel okay. They're like, but I'm ready to go back to work. And they're like, no, not yet, which is the right call. But it sucks, especially for people like that who are just raring and ready to go. And then we saw a couple more injuries, but I don't want to go through all of them. I want people to continually remember how serious it is what they do. Like we appreciate the action, we appreciate the stories, but man, this stuff happens, and in a moment you're like, oh shit, like this person's life may have just changed,
right?
Yeah.
I think
as in his face, and it's not real. So they're not really hurt. They just probably need it all for a birthday or something.
Actually, to your point, so I think, as much as all these injuries really suck, I think it is very indicative of just how much the athletes and performers are putting into their performances. They're doing everything they can to give us great shows, across the board. And unfortunately, sometimes that results in injuries or just, weird accidents like what happened to Adam Cole's ankle. Just, it just sucks.
Yeah, and on that note, real quick, I want to give a huge shout out and shower affection and love and support for the guy that is Hook. This guy is so super tough. He's incredible. He took Muscle Buster after choke slam after Muscle Buster, which is a move that ended TJ Wilson's career. Kicks out after one. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Not
Yeah.
to steal somebody else's line. He's not human. Sorry.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about that match this week. I think every podcast and every social media account has discussed it. I personally feel like that match made Hook a star. Like, he was already kind of over. Like, a lot of people really liked him, but I think that match, take it for what it was. That match made him. He went against Samoa Joe, one of the baddest mother truckers out there, and he survived.
Yeah, I would agree with that to a point. I mean, most of the match was good for him, but now they put him in a position where Samoa Joe had to bring out every weapon in his arsenal. Samoa Joe, who's a 25-year veteran, world champion all over the world, is 100 pounds and more bigger than him. And he had all he could do to beat Hook.
Killer Clown.
Yeah, but he had all he could do to beat Hook. Like, this Hook is so tough. Who's going to beat him? Like, who could ever take him down? Like,
I agree with the intent of the match. Obviously, was to help bring Hook to that next level,
and it did.
Yeah, like many other things in AEW. The intent is always there, and is always, for lack of a better term, good intent. The execution,
but it got everyone talking. Everyone was talking about it.
But there was a way to still have that good intent and make it look and feel a lot different, just like they had discussed Busted Open this past week.
Yeah,
especially Dave and Bully. There were a few key things, and a few things, like I said, I don't discount or argue the intent of what they're trying to do. They did accomplish it, but it could have been just a little bit cleaner and better to get to that point. Because right now, the very next time Samoa Joe gets in the ring with an opponent and gives him a muscle buster, and they count 3, well, Hook kicked out at 1. And Joe has won championships all over the world with the muscle buster. Granted, I was not mad at the actual finish. Hook still remains strong. He passes out. He doesn't tap out to the Coquita clutch, and all that. But there's a lot of that stuff. The amount of punishment that kid took, if we are suspending disbelief, for him to basically roll out and walk back to the dressing room on his own. No, I'm sorry. It just that was a huge disconnect for me. I was with him up until it became not 1 but 2 muscle busters and that hellacious table spot that they did. And then to finally have the kid tap out, and I find it fitting because, like Ed Bully has said, the Coquilla clutch is kind of a similar version to Hook's finish, the Red Rum, which is the Kata Hajime, which was his dad's finish, the dad's mission. So I understand they did a kind of a nice job there connecting the dots. But like I said, it could have just been a little bit cleaner and just a little bit better to get to what they wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah. Tony.
Yeah. I will say we were watching it live, right? And as the match was happening, all these thoughts that's been talked about over and over and over again now that we're discussing weren't going through my head at that point, because in the match, I was like going, holy crap, that table spot that John just mentioned, that was, I was like, holy crap, and y'all were like, what? And I was like, you'll see. And then I couldn't believe, his head hit that edge of that table, and I was like, holy crap. And then he gets powerbombed on the hardest part of the ring, and then when he kicked out at 1 on the Muscle Buster, the first thing that came into my mind was Sting when he no sells things, and Hulk Hogan when he hulks up, right? But those are two superstars that Hook is not on the level of, Sting and Hulk Hogan. Yeah, and I don't like they mentioned on Busted Open, are they going for a Rocky Balboa kind of thing with Hook? It remains to be seen. As Bully said, and I agree 100%, we need to see Hook on Dynamite on Wednesday, opening the show, and they need to run with Hook. They don't need to just have that one special match and then you don't see Hook for a while. That would be stupid. You know, they need to catch lightning in the bottle if they have any lightning, and go with Hook and see what they can do with it, because Hook the way he did the other night, regardless of the opinions that we've been talking about, Hook did accomplish something. He passed out. He did not tap out. He got sympathy from the fans. That's just going to cause the fans to be more behind him, I think, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I definitely agree with that. I think it'll honestly be a career defining moment for Hook. You know, I think with any wrestler, like, not to compare him to, you know, the greats like you said, Hulk Hogan or Sting, but any wrestler, there's always these career defining moments, and there's always going to be, you know, every great was a young boy once. And so there's always going to be these first time things, these defining things that will follow them for the rest of their life. And I really do think that this is one of those for Hook.
Yeah. I agree with that, you know, because again, you know, much like a Darby, much like a Ricky Starks, a lot of Sammy Guevara. I mean, these are guys that you're still looking at them to be on or near the top of the card 10 years from now, 15 years from now. They're young, and yes, everyone, all greats have certain career defining or moment defining things along the way. Again, because it's AEW, no confidence. I have no confidence in that they'll follow up any of this the way it should be done, and that's been proven more times than I care to admit, especially in AEW. But
okay, John, but real quick, I have 2 words that give me confidence for this storyline. Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is one of the top stars there, and we know from talking to people in the company, outside the company, wherever, like Tony Khan gives freedom to people like Samoa Joe, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage. There's no doubt in my mind that Samoa Joe is directing that traffic. So I'm a lot more interested because he can tell a story. So I'm willing to give them the benefit when it's guys like that or women at the top of the card who have a history of like some pretty incredible stuff. So I'm gonna lay back and just see what happens with it, because I just jump to conclusions that they're not going to follow up. I don't think that's fair, but we'll see. It's a maybe.
At best.
Maybe. Yeah.
Hey Deb, I want to touch on something. Deb,
don't touch me there.
Not like that. Okay, so you said something that needs to be put on a t-shirt. You said every great was a young boy once. That was when you said that was like a light bulb went off in my head. That was an amazing statement you made. I was like, wow, you had a career defining moment, Deb. I mean, that was
just a hat stand.
Hello, Pro Wrestling Tees. My name is Debhausen. I have your next big #1 weekly selling T-shirt. Thank you. Please send the royalty check.
John, we talked about this when it happened. My absolute new favorite T-shirt is the Tom and Nick shirt.
Yes, the R-Truth Tom and Nick.
Oh my god! And if for anybody who hasn't seen the video of R-Truth on Busted Open this week, you just have to. It's incredible. We literally talk about him every week, and he's not a champion. He's not a headliner. He's just one of the most entertaining people in all of wrestling. Holy crap.
Let me just do my quick quick disclaimer.
Uh-oh.
We lost John.
Well, we're waiting.
We're waiting. Anyway, while he's recharging, hold on.
Nope, there we go. And I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, in this undisclosed location somewhere near the ECW arena, internet isn't real great, especially after the weather. But
it's
your
New Jersey, so.
weekly disclaimer: it's an undisclosed location. Thank you.
In New Jersey.
Your weekly reminder: our truth is a national treasure and needs to be protected at all costs. Thank you.
Yes, agreed.
Yes. So earlier today, I didn't get to finish the episode, but our truth was on Peter Rosenberg's podcast, GP, and I didn't quite get to finish it. I still have, I think maybe 10, 15 minutes left. But it was hilarious because Peter Rosenberg said he saw our truth backstage after he came back and was like, dude, I have to have you on the show. I gotta interview you. You're so hot right now, and this is great. Gotta interview you. And then he kind of forgot about it, and then he saw that our truth was on Busted Open, and he was like, damn it, they got it first. From what I heard from the interview so far, it's our truth. He's awesome. He's funny.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So I don't really remember him sharing the details on Busted Open of the extent of his injury. Did he?
No, he didn't.
That's all he said.
No. He talked more about it in the other interview, I think.
So on GP, he goes into more detail about it, and he said it started off as his torn quad, went in for surgery. Unfortunately, got a bacterial infection from the surgery that was like MRSA and staph and just horrible. He had to have follow-up surgeries, and there was even a possibility that he might have needed his leg amputated. So, So hearing him talk about it was just, oh my God, shocking. And so, that makes me even more glad that he's healthy. He's healthy and he came back, and he said he did like while he was out, he did like lose a bunch of weight because of the medication that he was taking. So I think he said he lost like 30 to 40 pounds or something.
Wow.
So he had to go back to the gym to get back up to his typical weight. So that's just crazy.
Well, happy belated birthday to our truth, by the way. He had a birthday this past week, so happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
He blocked.
Oh well.
We got to figure out why he blocked you.
I don't know. I do not know.
This guy gets to follow, but you get blocked
about him.
Yeah.
Well,
but
y'all know me. That makes sense. So there's a ton of stuff going on in WWE as well. Like, we're heading into the Rumble. There's stuff going on Raw and SmackDown and NXT. But I was just looking through just some highlights. I'm very interested in the Becky Lynch stuff right now because I thought that Becky was going to continue her feud with Nia. And it doesn't look like that's continuing, which I'm not sure why. But so now we're looking at Becky sort of inserted herself into the Rhea Ripley scene. And so that sort of throws everything up in the air when it comes to the Rumble. And we'll talk, I guess, more about the Rumble picks next week. But I'm still kind of thinking we're going to see like a Jade Cargill come in. We're going to see somebody come in and step to Rhea. Like size-wise, that all matches up. Maybe Rhea's too big a star to have a new person in that position. I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting twist to see Becky sort of inserted into this story.
Yeah. I too, because I honestly thought that there was going to be some sort of continuation between Nia and Becky. And the idea of Becky now, I loved her promo. Her and Rhea had that excellent promo on Raw, where Becky is like, I don't know if I can beat you, or if I don't know if I'm still the man, but I have to find out. and it's a great story because now obviously we're going to see Becky in the Rumble, and if we go by what she had said, she'll win the Rumble, and she's going to challenge Rhea at WrestleMania. And even Rhea was like, "Yeah, let's go. I'll see you at WrestleMania." Basically, giving Becky the nod, saying, "Yeah, you can go in, and you will win the Royal Rumble, and then I will beat you in Philadelphia." I have however, rest in peace, Finkel. I don't think they're done with Nia and Becky. There's going to be some shenanigans somewhere between now and then, or now and Mania. There's going to be something. Nia does something and costs Becky the Rumble win. Maybe even something at Elimination Chamber in Australia. Something somewhere along the way. There's going to be something. I don't think they're quite done with it yet.
And there's another wrinkle too. And Tony, I don't know. Did you get through all of SmackDown? I don't know if you saw all of SmackDown last night.
I saw the ending. That's all I saw. I saw the very end.
So on SmackDown last night, Bayley, Damage Control was ringside for the women's match, and Bayley was wearing a Rhea Ripley shirt. She had RR here on her cheek, and she posted on social media, "I'm coming for you." Like basically, like I'm the mommy slayer, she said on Twitter. So now we've got.
I admire her enthusiasm.
Yeah.
We've got another person in the conversation taking aim at Rhea. Obviously, when you're the champion, everyone is, but these are bigger names. Like these are main event people. So you're going, okay, we've got those people, and then whoever emerges from the Rumble coming after Rhea. They haven't really talked a lot about the world champion. So we'll have to wait and see. And Io Sky still holds that title, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So they haven't really talked a ton about her. They've really focused on Rhea. So I don't know where they're going with it, but I like it that they keep giving us all these little tidbits, little chapters. There's no clear-cut story.
No, there's no. The road to WrestleMania right now has many off-ramps, U-turns,
cobblestones,
roundabouts,
and even the cobblestones and roundabouts. And since I am in New Jersey, y'all go fuck yourselves. Jug handles.
That's okay. We have roundabouts here too, and jug handles.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to mention
that made me. I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Deb. Go ahead. I just have to type an email real quick. Dear WWE, for the love of God, capital exclamation, do not use fucking Kabuki Warriors again.
Are you two fingers there?
Yes, I am.
Oh my
it was
God.
their creation.
I'm sorry.
It was Asuka and Kairi Sane created the name, and it was their pitch. How can you be against the characters that were created by the talent?
I don't like. I've always did not like the name. Just the name. Oh, that call it anything else.
To be fair, wasn't Dewdrop like Piper's idea as well, or was it? Or no, it was Nikki Cross's superhero character.
Yeah,
that was supposedly her idea.
Nikki Ash.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, some people just don't have good ideas.
But it is a good idea. It's the entire thing. The entire thing is immersed in our culture.
At least they didn't. At least they didn't call her Nikki ASH by Elegance. I mean,
wrong company, man. Wrong company.
Hey, I actually think that's funny. I mean, because when I first saw the thing, I was like, "Oh, it's like a perfume." It made sense.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's not her name. Her name is Ash, being presented by Elegance. Like, I understood it.
Right.
People were like, "That's a dumb name." I'm like, "That's not the name." Like, and of course, the vignette this week it showed us that was what they were talking about.
Sure.
People are dumb.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, back to
they're not smart.
You had a point like 10 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not you stupid. I'm not stupid.
So yeah, I'm gonna read the names. Of course, we'll talk about it more next week. But I'm gonna read the names of the people that are announced so far for Rumble, and for only being 1 week away, it's a pretty short list. So,
Bueller.
Mhm.
Bueller.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
He's not on the list, sir. This is in attendance.
So like we were talking for the women, it's only Becky, Nia, Bailey, and Bianca. That's all we know so far. And for the men, it's Cody, Punk, Nakamura, Lashley, and Drew. So I it's quite interesting. Only 1 week away, and the names that have been announced are that few. And I think one of the things in the past couple of years that has kind of bummed me out about Rumble, and Rumble's my favorite pay-per-view, is that I think like last year, the year before, there was all but like 3 names announced.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of meh. Like, it doesn't really leave open a lot of possibilities. So I'm thoroughly enjoying that we only have a few names announced so far. But back to the women, I think definitely like seeing that it's only Becky, Nia, Bailey, and Bianca that are announced so far. Already with just those 4, there's a lot of possibilities of like little things that could happen between them, like with Becky and Nia, that will have implications later.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. They talked about it on Busted Open this week too. I would prefer that they didn't announce any names, like no names.
Yeah,
just let us just enjoy the ride. I mean, I understand what they're doing with the top names because you're building that storyline into who's going to face, at Elimination Chamber leading into WrestleMania. By the way, Elimination Chamber, like all these people are talking about The Rock and Roman facing off there. It's 5 a.m. here. You're not going to use. You're not going to use a premium live event airing at 5 a.m. in the United States to blow off a Rock Roman feud.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
I don't even think Roman's going to be there. I don't even think
no.
So,
it's like they have to know that these international pay-per-views that are at really crazy times for us here in America, there's not going to be, the normal audience tuning in live. I ain't waking up that early. Hell no.
Yeah, right.
And I know that obviously in the rest of the world that's something that they have to deal with regularly, but they're an American company. Their core fan base is in America. We can't have something that important being on a show that not the whole audience is going to be tuning in live.
Right. I had a thought, about talking about names being announced for Rumble matches, right? So I agree with Front Row. I want to be surprised, right? But think about when your favorite band is putting out an album like Metallica, for instance, and they put out 72 Seasons, and it's getting released in, say, May, right? But you start hearing tracks from the album a couple of months prior. You hear that first track that they're going to release. Then there's maybe another track in the next month, and then the album comes out. So you get a preview of 2 tracks, and the album's going to have 10 tracks, right? So there's 8 songs that you get to listen to when the album comes out. This is kind of the same thing to me. Like, you announce a couple of entrants on the women's side and the men's side and leave it at that. And then you have room for possibilities and surprises and whatever else. I love Royal Rumble for that reason, for the surprises, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it too, because we've got some big names that are still floating around. We don't know if Brock's going to have a match at WrestleMania. I said it last week. I want to see Brock and Gunther for the IC title. But you could also have John Cena challenge for that. He's never held that title. Like, that would be a high-profile match. Does John Cena enter the Rumble? Like, I don't know. There's all kinds of cool options. And there's so many talent in NXT now that are doing big things. You're probably going to see more than a few NXT folks show up. Because I just love what they're doing. And now we have Ren Sinclair. So
hey, Maddie.
Yeah, I'm super happy for Maddie, man. She's worked so hard, so hard
Yes.
over the years. I hope she kills it because she's really talented.
She's going.
I think
And
she will.
incredibly personable.
I think
like,
she will.
Very charismatic. She's very funny. We saw the side character stuff she did.
Oh my god!
I hope she gets to do some of that stuff because she'll kill it.
Yeah.
But they did make a big deal out of her, like on commentary and on social media, which I think is really cool.
Right.
Yeah. She deserves it.
No. It's opportunity. It was an opportunity. Unfortunately, poor Jade got hurt and is not able to compete, and she got her spot and stepped up and did very well in that women's battle royal for the contendership. Made it down. She wasn't in the final fatal 4-way, but I believe she made it to the final 5 or 6. She was one of the last
5.
ones eliminated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was in there like just selling and registering and doing, and she had a couple of those big fire up moments where they really focused on her interacting with the bigger stars in the match. It was super cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you guys, and this is going to sound, we talk about it every week. The work that Nick Aldis is doing on SmackDown, especially last night, the interactions with Roman and Heyman and the stuff at the end of the show where, he just, Roman just throws the contract at him after he signs it.
Yeah.
And the look on Nick Aldis' face, because Nick is a big MFer. He's not a small human. I think all of us in this room have spent time with him, and he's a large person.
Yep.
So, and I think he's bigger than Roman. I think he's physically bigger than Roman. So,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes.
See that look on his face, and to be like, "Oh, what's going to happen next?" Like, you're pissing in the wrong person. One place to use that.
Right.
But that entire interaction is it's a breath of fresh air. It's a new wrinkle for the bloodline. They've had stuff with Sammy. They've had stuff with other authority figures, with Adam Pearce and all these things. And now they're in a position where Roman's being stonewalled by the guy who's actually in charge from a character standpoint. Nick runs the show.
Right.
And he's like, you either play ball, you either follow the rules, or I'm gonna screw up your world. And Roman's like, yeah, but you can't do that. I'm Roman Reigns. And Nick's like, I don't care.
0.
His interactions with Heyman are gold too. Gold.
Well, that's that absolutely. That these are two, and just a couple quick points on that. The whole part of that segment, the interaction between Heyman and Nick, is so good. Just like we saw last week when Nick goes to Heyman and says, "Oh, by the way, your match at Royal Rumble," or 2 weeks ago, your match at Royal Rumble, his match at Royal Rumble is now a fatal 4-way. He doesn't announce it in the ring. He basically walks over to Heyman and says it to him. Then the look on Heyman's face. And now, they carried that again, connecting the dots and continuing the story at Heyman and all this, which I found almost uncanny in the fact that between the two of them, there was probably about $20,000 worth of custom suits in that frame at one point between Heyman and all this. But all this just has that thing, that presence about him that, we talk about it. We talk about it, especially with WWE pay-per-views when they do the media scrums afterwards. Triple H, call it back, whatever you want, comes out, and he gives that air of authority of the person in charge. Nick has absolutely carried that right to SmackDown, and it's absolutely another great wrinkle to especially this Bloodline story, because let's face it, for the last 2 years they have just basically ran everything. Whether they wanted to or really not, they are the de facto heads of SmackDown. But now here's this authority figure, someone in charge, absolutely standing up face to face, nose to nose with him, saying, "Guess what, sunshine? Ain't working like that no more." He's the new sheriff, and so far, and again, we always say, "Well, God, what are they going to do with the Bloodline now?" What's that? Here's yet another wrinkle to the Bloodline story that is going to keep hopefully going as long as possible. They can do it.
Turns out they're not out of ideas yet. Another good idea
Apparently
from
not.
this week that I think we all were super excited was the return of Pete Dunne.
Yes.
Yay!
I saw that.
Bye,
I saw that too.
Butch. Bye,
He got
Butch.
his name back.
The
You guys saw my
Bruiserweight has
reaction.
returned. Yeah. The
So,
Bruiserweight
okay,
has returned.
I'll tell you guys. I've had a conversation with Sam Roberts about this, and I think he's talked about it on his podcast as well. Pete Dunne was not nearly as financially, commercially successful as the character Butch, which I didn't understand, but he gave me some numbers, and he said somehow that character connected with kids at live events. It sold merchandise. It did better numbers on the quarterly hour ratings when that character was on TV. That character was more over with a casual fan and made more money. However, that's because Pete Dunne took a shit idea and made it work.
Right.
Because
Okay.
most people wouldn't have been able to do what he did with that character. And he worked with them to evolve it into almost like a hybrid between Pete Dunne and Butch. What we kind of got up until last week was like kind of a hybrid. So I feel like the characters evolved, and now they're putting the name back on him, and we saw him with the full Bruiserweight get up. And I just want to give props to a guy who was given a really crappy creative idea and said, I'm gonna make that work. And he did. He made it work in a big way. Whether we liked it or not, it worked from what I'm told. So good for him.
At least it worked in one way that only really makes any difference, and that's financial.
It made him money. So good for him.
And
there you go.
Yeah, and the pop that he got when they said Pete Dunne, the pop that he got from the crowd was amazing. Like, wow,
And if you pay attention to what Corey Graves was saying on commentary, like Corey Graves was hyping him up, like saying, Pete Dunne, this is the guy,
a bruiserweight,
like he was really hyping him up to show how Pete Dunne is like a killer.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was awesome.
If you go back,
very good job.
If you go back, and John, because I think John and I are two of the people that watched NXT UK from the beginning. Very, very early on, when Pete Dunne was there, he did. I remember, I forget who he was in the ring with, but it was very physical, very violent. He goes backstage, and Triple H is waiting for him, and he's just has this stare down with Triple H. And Triple H warns him, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it was like, "Hey, watch yourself, kid," or something like that. And Pete Dunne stood up to him. Do you remember that, John?
Yes, I do. I do.
It made him. It was like a big moment for the character and the performer, like to be in London with Triple H backstage doing that. It was a really cool moment, and ever since then, it was like, oh shit, like this guy needs to be taken seriously. And
this guy could be a problem, and which is exactly what they wanted to portray him as and everything, and obviously it worked extremely well in UK, and of course when he came to NXT here, and carried on, and now we're seeing it come full circle, and he's back, and
say again.
Oh, did I drop? I'm sorry. I didn't even realize. Didn't even notice. I have to
my baby's in the chat.
Oh, Tony's got an admirer.
He's so cute. He's so cute.
I'm blushing.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. She's watching you. Look at you do all that. Oh, that is so nice. Steve came to see you. Heart, hand sign. Sent.
Oh my god. You guys.
Y'all are too much.
All right. All right.
Okay, before we leave, just to bridge the gap here. Weird transition, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Nick Aldis, Mickey James was on Busted Open yesterday talking about she's going to be producing the pay-per-view coming up on all women's pay-per-view called Her. I don't know all the details on it, but I wore my NWA Empower shirt today because Tony and I were at NWA Empower, which Mickey also produced and ran. It was, I think we've spoken about it on the show, and if you go look at our YouTube channel, we had some interviews that we did the day after with some of the women on the card. It was a really, really cool show. It was one of those things where I think there was 4 or 5 different companies represented. And even though the next day was like this incredible moment with Trevor Murdoch and Nick Aldis and Ric Flair was there and all that stuff, the women's show Empower trended higher and for longer and had more social media interaction than even the NWA show the next day. So it was a really cool show. If you have access to it, go back and look at it. There's a lot of names on that card that are doing big things today. So it's a shame that they weren't able to do another one because I think the fans really enjoyed it. I know I saw Ronda Rousey was tweeting about it. Like, it was a big deal.
Right. It was.
Mickey's talking about doing a show in Australia called Her.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
That's the show. Yeah, they're doing a set of Australia shows, and that one is part of it.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for keeping me on track, guys. Thanks for keeping me on track.
God.
Because I'm a little distracted, you know.
Watch the product.
Watch the product. That's the rule.
I told you not to be stupid, Jamora.
I see. I just real quick. And Neil, I wasn't ignoring Neil. Just Neil's not on the show. I'm talking about the hosts that were in the room. But yes, Neil and my wife and Trenda were there as well. It was an incredible event. We had a lot of fun that weekend.
Oh yeah, that was a great.
But I didn't name you because it was Tony who was on the show. He's a host. Never mind. Whatever.
What? Wait! What? 2 weeks in a row, and all of a sudden now the part. Well, no, Neil,
Jesus
you're right.
Christ.
Make sure everybody understands. Dear.
Anywho,
dear
let's
everybody.
Get this, show back on the road.
Tony is
Let's bring this thing in.
Timer.
Let's bring this
I'm
in.
at
Deb.
That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine and on the Instagram.
Yeah.
And I just want to say it's my dad's birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
One
Papa
of the reasons
Housen.
why I'm so weird and crazy, so.
Shout out to Papa Housen.
How about you, Tony?
Y'all can find me right there at Tony Justice AJFA. And if you're a Metallica fan, like I know all of us are, you know what that means. Ooh, and happy birthday, Jackie. Happy birthday, Jackie.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Jackie.
Mrs. Mongrovian.
Having a great time.
Mrs. Mongrovian, who is enjoying all of Mongrovian Mike's awesome cuisine tonight for her birthday party. I wish I could roll through and get a plate.
Me too.
Johnny?
I am, of course, I don't do the finger things like that, but it says it there. I am at Twisted Metal Fab on the Twitter or X and on the IG and also on the Instagram. Follow the exploits of the most dangerous weapon in professional wrestling. That is the AK9K, otherwise known as Ass Kicker 9000. Follow him at Ass Kicker 9K on the Instagram. As Front Row mentioned, I am taking the week off next Saturday, going to Atlantic City for the annual Boardwalk Hall AC indoor racing events. My lovely daughter Brooke is coming up, and we're going to go spend the weekend in Atlantic City watching little cars go really fast in circles. And it's our annual thing, and we enjoy. So I am absolutely looking forward to it. One other thing, as always, thank you, Deb. Hashtag Nation's Corner on location. I cannot stress this enough, people, especially for all of you interested and coming to the Philly area for WrestleMania, there is a shit ton of independent and smaller events going on literally within a half hour drive from Philadelphia. Just a ton. I am still bombarded almost every day with different DMs and emails from promotions that are coming into the area to run shows for that Mania week. So if you're bummed out about not making Mania or any of that stuff, trust me, people, you will have more than enough to fill your time here. So, but as you do, always let us know who you're seeing, who you're liking. Hashtag Nation's Corner on location.
Very good.
Nice.
And I am PW Front Row on the socials. You can follow us at the Nation's Corner across all socials, except for X, where we are just at Nation's Corner. Folks, appreciate y'all. Everybody have a great weekend. We will see everybody next week. Later.